We're sitting here after showing the Past Life movie, and I'm here with Diane Bloor, and we were just kind of going over some notes as to what sort of impressions or ideas you got from it, and what do you think people might want to know that wasn't covered, or questions that were raised, or anything along those lines.
I really thought it was very good and very informative, but what I would emphasize is what one of the gals was emphasizing is that it's really important to pray or to cover you prior to these events, like searching out what your past life was, like if you're looking in a mirror or something else, due to the fact that one of my background is I have a master's in social work, but I have a bachelor's in psych, and I always refer to my psych background more than my master's background. And I had a professor who I was extremely impressed with. In class, he was talking about people with multiple personalities. And I raised my hand and asked him, did he believe in, how do I say, possession, etc.? And the class was extremely quiet. He said nothing, and then he said yes. And then he brought in a number of cases. And in one of the cases, a person was going into the mirror and trying to do self-hypnosis thing, but of course this entity was not covering itself and eventually became possessed and it had committed a multitude of murders, okay? So these are like things that are confidential type of things, but also in my own personal experiences of meeting a young man who was doing the Ouija board, did not do any prayers or anything, and he did become possessed.
Also did it alone, which they weren't against.
Okay. And his facial features actually changed. So a number of us got together and did a certain type of a prayer to cover, bringing the light in to protect them against the darkness. And he physically started to change back, but of course, the issue was that he wanted the power because he thought he was having more power by becoming more psychic and having more energy and being able to do more greater things. But the issue was that if he killed somebody, because I'd already had this class and I had this experience from this professor, he would be the one that would go to jail. The entity would just take off and find somebody else to possess. So the fact is, people do not realize how important this is, and the issue is a number of people when you speak to in the higher mucka of the religious, areas of life, basically say that if you don't tell people they don't believe in it, they're not going to play with it, and they're not going to get possessed, they're not going to have bad things happen to them. So just ignore it, and it's like saying the devil's not there. Well, the devil is there. You can't ignore him because then he can just kind of take over and do his own little thing. So you have to be aware there is a war still going on. You need to be able to protect yourself. You need to realize, yes, God is there. And you can reach God and you can actually become more in tune with God, but you need to be remembering to keep in the light. And the way to get to God is just, there's a little phrase in the Bible that will tell you exactly what to do, and you can do that. But
there's the first documentary I did, which was on witches in Wisconsin, etc. And one of the guys I had interviewed happened to be based in Chicago. He had, I think, a couple of degrees too in psychology and whatnot. And he said that one of the problems that he had seen was teenagers when they're getting together and being teenagers.
being wrong, yeah, that's not a good thing.
They get themselves a Ouija board and giggle, let's bring up some scary spooks, and of course they leave themselves wide open and bring up some scary spooks and they get scared and I mean, you get what you ask for. Exactly. So that's probably what they were saying in the film here, was that's probably not the best way to go about doing things. That's why the Ouija board has gotten such a bad reputation, is because people play around with it.
Right, in the incorrect manner.
Yeah.
And I think the issue was too with how you go about it and where you go to gather your presence or trying to make contact. I wouldn't suggest going in a haunted house or a house with murderers have been in there, because you might drag off the entities you don't want to.
Well, especially if you're looking for it. If you're looking to, so there's because I've been involved with the Milwaukee Paranormal Conference the last couple of years. There's all these vendors and all these booths there, and they have all these, visit a haunted house for $10, right around Halloween time, and stuff like that. And okay, but how can you be sure that the ghosts are going to be there right at night? Do you have a contract with them, or So I've always wondered about that. I mean, there may in fact be psychic energy buried in there, and that's one of the things we're going over with tomorrow at some of the programs I've got here tomorrow, is that the universe basically vibrates, everything vibrates, and everything connects with each other, and therefore they can absorb energy, and they can absorb emotions and ideas and things like that, which is why you can go to a battlefield and you might be able to pick up on some of that energy, etc. But if you go in looking for it and just to get yourself scared or something like that, then you may end up freaking yourself out, even if it's just your own imagination, or whatever. But then also, if you're turning it into a business, and
well, then sometimes it might be more something. I'm not coming out today. I'm busy.
Yeah. So I've always wondered about these, yearly Halloween trips to haunted houses or haunted locales and something like that, and tour guides that, okay.
Well,
I'm sure that there's some real energy there, but it just seems kind of odd to plan a trip around it.
It's, because it's really unpredictable. I know it's unusual kind of a situation that I had as my girlfriend and I were. There was, in Michigan, there's a big old cemetery on a hill. And then it's like, kids like to go up there, and because it would have a drop off. So we were driving by, we had a Ouija board, and she showed me, what it was like, and then we went past it again another time, and while we were going past, it felt like some entity came in the back seat right by the Ouija board, and we both looked at each other like, did you feel that? So creeped us. My mother burned the Ouija board. She got so scared. It's like, we don't burn the Ouija board. So, it was a very creepy, weird feeling.
Well, yeah, but the more you keep yourself in the light, the more that stuff doesn't bother you in the first place.
Right.
Anyway, so anything else that you picked up on, or
let me see.
Any other ideas that kind of came to mind? Or?
Well, I do believe in reincarnation. I think that's very powerful, that we have many lives. And I have mixed feelings about how to determine what you were in your past life, because I think, how do I say, long time ago when I was dating my husband-to-be, we went to a seminar. It was based on the things of, how do I say, transpersonal information developed by the Rudolf Steiner Foundation, okay? And they had come to town, they had a motel, it was all set up, and they had glasses to see aura with, which kind of concerns me, because they would think that would affect your ability to focus, because their theory is that your eye focuses in the opposite direction. And they were also talking about people's past life experiences at that particular time, and people were talking about it. Well, he's kind of like me. I don't believe it unless I see it. I research it to make sure this person's not pulling the wool over my eyes. And they told all the places that they had lived and everything. We actually went to find those places, and he was very adamant they did not exist. So, it's like, I'm sure there are parallel worlds or look-alike places that we go to once in a while to be examined and looked over, and go into our brain to see what we're up to, and maybe they futz around sometimes and they shouldn't, because there's some naughty people there that shouldn't be there. But do you see what I'm saying? So perhaps maybe that's where they had their past life, but it wasn't where we were on Earth. You know, you see what I'm saying? So it gets confusing because the theory is that every 2,000 years you're reborn on the Earth. So if somebody else has a different theory of a new life, another life, you go to another planet or a different place where they take you and they say, okay, let's check it out. Okay, you did your cycle. Okay, we're going to do another one. The cycle is shorter. Whereas, like, for instance, this gal who was talking about her past life, if it was World War I or World War II, she looked too young. You know, it was not 2,000 years ago.
Yeah, no, I haven't heard the 2,000 year cycle
Yeah.
for reincarnation.
Yeah.
Because I heard it happens all the time, and it's somewhat self-willed. In other words, that you can sort of choose, or you can sort of choose to hang back and wait for another century or something.
That's probably not impossible. That's probably very true. I guess I'm basing it on old knowledge that I've had from a long time ago. At that point in time, it was a 2,000 year thing unless you were killed yourself. You know, we have instant birth again, and sometimes people don't want to live very long, so they die. You know, there are a lot of different theories.
Well, yeah.
It's very difficult to determine. I know I had been told about the theory of licking glass and covering, so I covered myself. And I'm a person that, I don't believe it unless I see it, so I thought, well, I'll just see and I'll try. And I was a little disappointed because, you see, I saw myself from not looking human.
Oh, well, that's interesting.
Yes, and I wasn't a female. I was like, oh, sure, yeah, like I'm going to believe that. Okay, I know that works out. Go to another. So the idea is yeah, something was going on, because I guarantee you I would not want to see something like what I saw in a mirror, meaning a male image or some.
Oh, look, it's Prince.
Right.
I didn't know I was that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's not impossible, but I do not know where I got the image from for real. It's still kind of like insulting.
Do you have a lot of lucid dreaming, or do you get impressions during the day of memories or things that kind of are out of the ordinary, let's say?
How would I say this? I think I wouldn't say I have lucid dreamings. When I sleep solid. But I've had some very unusual, what I would call visions, only because it's like I'm really there, and it's like it's really happening. And then later on, they have become evident that those things actually became in a movie, a theater, and I went to see them with my husband, and I say, I was there, you know, and that really happened. But there's a word, I have to find out if that's the word that they use. Like, for instance, they had, what's that one? How do you say? There was one with the UFO, and I was in this UFO, and I wanted to see Jesus, okay? And didn't realize that there was a book with this in, but I'd seen the book when I was younger, and I forgot there was this guy, and he's pointing down at Jesus, you know? So I wanted to go see this, and we went over there, and I was looking out the window. He said, "Get down, they'll see you." I said, "Who's going to see me? I'm so high up. Nobody's going to go see me." He says, "You don't understand." I said, "Look anyway." It's okay, and I wasn't supposed to look. I was told not to do that. And I said, "We need to bring him back. You know, if the world would be better if we could bring him back in time." He says, "You don't understand. You can't do that. If you do that, things could be different, and that means that Hitler might win next time, or something else. You can't do that." So I wasn't real happy about that. And then Jesus also, in my dream, or my vision, said, he didn't say, he said he died because of, you know, when it's the word "for" in the Bible, it was rewritten during the Shakespearean time. So if you read Shakespeare, "For you I have died" means because of you. Okay? So he died because of their sins, not for their sins. Not just. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's been misinterpreted a little bit.
Well, there's
I mean,
the Bible, when it's been translated a number of different times, and through several languages. You know, starting with Aramaic and going all the way through. So things can get changed all the way through.
Yeah, and in my vision, that's what it was. And when I went back and I found this book, and I thought, I just thought, there really was, this place really happened, you know, this painting is on the top of a church in somewhere in Czechoslovakia or something, or Hungary. And in this UFO, they show a picture, it was above the of Christ being there, and there's a little man in there looking down. And I thought, oh my God, no. no. And I had never seen the book before, so it was very strange. And I had also had one where my husband and I were in his van, and some aliens were driving it. That did not make sense at all. But we were levitated over to Egypt. And this was in the movie, kind of, but not the van or anything like that, the Egypt thing. They were just talking about some of the things that these people had told us in this dream. And they were talking about how they levitated the stones to make the pyramid. And during the dream, he said something about Rumtek, and I was like, oh, I gotta remember one of these words because I don't know that language. I gotta figure out what that word means. I'm gonna remember this, you know. And there was a different word. He says, beautiful language. I could never, you know. And English is kind of harsh language, so I only could remember was Rumbletech, and I kept thinking that means everything's secure. It must mean secure because you had it ready, you know, like you're saying, like this guy. Everything is Rumtech or something like that, and because of course, again, it's not English. In the movie, it says Rumbletech, or we're close to that word, means levitation. And I thought, huh, that's interesting, you know. So yeah, once in a while we have unusual dreams, but not for a long time, or visions. It's been a while. How about you?
Not for a while. Not for a while. Basically, since I started the film company, it's
all in the film.
It's all in the film. I've been consumed with business stuff, and that just goes right down. So coming out of college and all that kind of stuff, I was on a much more higher plane, day by day.
Well, give me an example of one of the visions or dreams that you've had. That
I could feel things better. I'm not necessarily clairvoyant, which means eyesight, or clairaudient, which means hearing.
Okay.
Clairsentient means feeling, and I tend to feel things.
Energies?
Energies, yeah, stuff like that. And I was much better at that like 20 years ago than I am now. So, and that's because I've been so focused in building my business life that it's pretty earthbound these days.
Right.
So I haven't had too many great, but I used to be pretty good at lucid dreaming for a while.
Can you share one with us?
Oh, I had a number of when I had started doing the Unexplained, which is the third documentary I made, and it's the third one in that series of things that are all about UFOs. I remember my room is on the second floor.
Okay.
And I remember seeing some guy just walk up to the window from outside and look into my room.
Ooh.
And obviously he had to be really tall because I'm in the second floor, but it seemed like I was in the first floor. And he had these metal bars for eyes, like 2 bars on each side, looking in. And he was just kind of studying me and then walked away, but it was so very clear, it's like I'm talking to you.
Ooh, like abduction kind of.
I don't know if it was abduction, but it was like studying.
That is unusual.
That's just one example.
One more, please.
I'm trying to remember. It was so complex. It had to do with being in a sort of futuristic society. And I don't know if I was on like an artificial moon, artificial satellite, but but it was a totally artificial environment, sort of like being on a gigantic spaceship. And everybody there was human, but it was like 500 years in the future or something like that. I remember that one. Because when I woke up, I was just so surprised to see myself here. Wait a minute! How did I get off that thing? So.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I can identify with that. I remember having a dream and a conversation, again, one of those, like you're really there, and a conversation and trying to save my planet.
Mm-hmm.
And asked for his help, and he said, well, what can we do? I don't understand, what can we do? And I said, can you do this? He said, we can do that, we can do this, we can do that, we can do that. And we shook hands, and he would help out. And then the other gentleman called somebody in, and quite a tall guy, took me to the cafeteria, and we were talking about all of these people are aliens, and we don't judge anyone, and we have all this different kind of food, and what would you like to eat? And I said, well, I didn't bring any money, so I can't, I don't want to. I'll buy you something. No, that's okay. Beautiful different array of foods in the cafeteria and the ship. And I got to the end of it, and the gal that worked behind the counter says, okay, so here's your food. And it was a little pill. And I thought,
what about all
what you eat? And he said, in this particular thing are all the fruits and vegetables and all the vitamins and everything you ever need to have, and this is what I eat this is my meal. You can eat anything you want, anybody can have whatever they have, this is what I eat. And someday you'll be like
graduate to that, yeah.
And I thought, so when I went, and this must have happened when I was all I keep remembering is every time when I was younger, I would say, is that those pills? When I saw a vitamin, and they go, not yet, not yet, not yet. So that was a very interesting dream, I would think. You know.
Imagine being in a world where you're in a restaurant and they give you this little pill, and then they give you the bill.
Yeah. Wait a minute.